Alright, let's get back into it. Thanks everyone for the support on the first episode. The video may not have done as well as I hoped, but it did do better than what I expected. It's enough motivation to keep on with the series and see if I can find my audience. Hopefully the voiceover should be much better quality, and I'm going to try some new editing tricks. Without further ado, let's get into narrative play in my Project Moon tabletop RPG, Stars of the City. Now, narrative play in Stars of the City isn't super fleshed out, and a lot of that is intentional. Your character is assumed to have any tools they would reasonably carry based on their profession and income, so no need to track a full inventory list. The only thing you really need to worry about, at least in terms of mechanics, are attempts and your own story abilities. Starting with attempts, these are the bread and butter of narrative play. Most narrative mechanics and challenges will focus on these. The concept of attempts is simple. When you want to do something challenging, like, say, jump a long gap, you may make an attempt by rolling a number of d10s. The number of dice you roll depends on the difficulty of the task, as assigned by the GM. 1 die for hard attempts, 2 for moderate, and 3 for easy. Outside effects can also give or remove dice, up to 4 and to a minimum of 1. Then, you compare the result of the lowest die to the stat that the GM decided is relevant to the attempt. If the result is equal to or lower than your stat, you succeed. What are the stats? That's simple. You have 6 core stats, which have a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 8. The stats are as follows. Might is a measure of physical power. Breaking down doors, pushing large objects, and shoving a crowd out of your way are all examples of might attempts. Vitality is how much you can withstand physically. Be it injuries or exhaustion, you generally don't initiate vitality attempts, but rather they are often demanded of you when interacting with hazardous environments. Agility is a measure of speed and dexterity. Acrobatics, pickpocketing, and stealth are all good agility attempts. These are all the physical stats, and now, moving on to mental, we have intellect, a measure of your education, knowledge, and ability to interact with technical equipment. Recalling information, interpreting a legal document, and inventing new weaponry all fall under intellect. Instinct is your understanding and observation of the world around you. Spotting something subtle, trying to get a read on the person you're talking to, and shielding your mind from mental effects are all instinct-based. Last but not least, persona is a measure of your social energy and force of will. It's used for social encounters, mostly, but it can also be used when interacting with supernatural elements, like abnormalities or distortions. It is not a measure of how attractive your character is, nor does it require that your character be bubbly and energetic. Those are the stats, and if they seem similar to a certain very famous tabletop RPG, you're exactly right. It's a really good stat array. Just 2 more things to note for attempts. First off is injuries and anxieties. As you go through a mission, you're going to take physical and mental damage that doesn't quite fit as HP damage. These are injuries and anxieties, and they're often used as a consequence for failing a dangerous attempt. Injuries only apply to attempts using the physical stats, and anxieties only apply to attempts using the mental stats. When you make an attempt, apply your relevant harm to the lowest die, increasing it by 1. Then, repeat for every additional injury or anxiety past the first. That's it for injuries and anxieties. Now let's move on to helping. Helping allows a player not making the attempt, but who can still reasonably contribute, to give the attempting player 1 additional die. However, in order to help, the helper's stats cannot be lower than the attempter's by 2 or more, so it may be better in some cases to have a weaker player make the attempt so that the party can pile on more dice. That's all for attempts. It's a bit different than other systems, but hopefully it should work well once you get into it. While attempts are the bread and butter, story abilities are the garnish. You don't need them to play, but they keep things interesting. Story abilities are taken from your archetype and represent your character's specialized attributes. Some abilities help increase the power of your attempts, while others allow you to skip the attempts altogether, sometimes at a cost. For example, the ability from the expert, professional know-how, allows you to automatically catch suspicious clauses in contracts, without the need for an attempt, and it has the bonus of giving you an extra die on attempts to scrutinize others in a professional setting. Meanwhile, tragic flaws are similar to abilities, but serve to hinder you. They are meant to be fun limits, and I honestly think you should intentionally bring them up often, even if it's to your detriment. Each of these abilities are unique, and if you like an ability but don't want to use the whole archetype, feel free to mix and match. The last thing to go over is resting. Your characters may find times within a mission that they can use to rest. The GM is the final authority on when you have rest time. During rest, you can take 2 rest actions from either the predetermined list that mostly consists of recovery options, or figure out some custom action based on the situation. There's no set time frame for how long a rest takes in-universe. It can be 10 minutes, an hour, or even a good night's rest. The GM should always make clear if there's any consequences to taking the time to rest. No offering the rest as a trap. Let's put this to the test. Pay attention to the visuals here because I'm not explaining every little detail. Let's say Heathcliff, Merceau, and Ryoshu are exploring an abandoned LabCorp facility. They come across a large sinkhole in the middle of a hallway. Merceau and Heathcliff choose to jump the pit, making might attempts, while Ryoshu chooses to balance along the edges of the wall, making an agility attempt instead. The GM decides that both versions have 2 dice. Ryoshu and Merceau pass, but Heathcliff fails. The GM decides that him falling 50 feet would be disruptive to the pacing, so instead decides to make it a near miss, and Heathcliff suffers 2 anxieties instead. Next, Merceau and Heathcliff decide to move some rubble to clear a path. The GM decides that the rubble is incredibly heavy, so it's a 1 die might attempt. In order to maximize the chances of success, the team wants to help each other to get the most dice. Their might stats are as shown here. If Heathcliff makes the attempt, only Merceau can help and they'll have 2 dice. But if Merceau makes the attempt, then both Heathcliff and Ryoshu can help, and they'll have a combined 3 dice. Roll, and success. Next, Heathcliff gets a bad feeling and decides to look for danger. GM calls for an instinct attempt with 2 dice. Heathcliff rolls well to start, but then remembers his 2 anxieties from earlier. Because of them, his success would turn into a failure. Thankfully, Heathcliff took the Push On story ability, which allows him to ignore his anxieties once per session. He decides that this is a good spot to use it. He keeps his success and notices a hidden abnormality about to pounce. While I want to keep narrative play fairly rules light, I still want to expand on it a little bit in the future. Mainly, I want to consider downtime between missions, as well as managing a business, such as a fixer office. The goal is to have systems for going on little filler quests between main missions, hiring others to do those quests for you, and building a home base that you can customize. This is still a ways off though. I need to work on a lot of other systems in the game before I can get to this, but keep an eye out. That's all for this episode. Next time we'll be going over the fundamentals of combat. Then, in episode 4, we'll be taking a deeper dive into the specifics of combat statuses, techniques, and builds. Like and subscribe for more, check out the system in the description down below, and if you want to keep tabs on my work, follow me on Blue Sky.